So there I am. I have to admit it. Yes, I have a testimony. Thank you very much. Lurch. My act as the smarmy, smart-assed Elder Meacham doesn't work on Elder Whittier. And that's part of why I have such warm memories for him. He was definitely a no BS kind of guy. If there was BS going on around him, he would simply remain quiet and tolerant until it had passed. He was too mature for such things. And we were together, again, at the very most, 2 months, and perhaps only a month, there in that apartment with Steve Hood. Steve Hood, who was his companion at the time. Well, I will think on that. It's not that these people are forgettable. It's just that I have forgotten them. That says way more about me than it does about them. So, but who could forget Steve Hood? Steve Hood, who probably had been on island, several months, probably 3 or 4. Because he definitely had his sounds and tones down and a good vocabulary, but he wasn't senior companion yet. But he was most certainly Steve Hood. That's who he was. Steve Hood, who had worked with the police. What was up with that? He had been like a high school ride-along with the police, only it was something better than that. He had a lot of experience with the cops. He knew the radio codes, and he used to entertain us by telling us that was a 1025, meaning a vehicle swerving to avoid another. Or here we've got a 1017, Sergeant, which was bicyclist down or something like that. And then he would tell real stories of encountering crime. But he had not yet been a police officer or a deputy. But he had all that experience. And, of course, Steve Hood, he was the physical type, the perfect physical type for his sense of humor. His hands and feet and head were kind of too big for his body. He looked like a big Labrador puppy, and yet he was agile, and he could strike a pose to help the effect of whatever joke he was telling. Very, very quickly and very, very effectively. He was animated, is the word. Animated. And the clever repartee just dropped out of his mouth like a string of pearls. From the moment Lurch was dubbed Lurch, it went on from there to the point where I always looked forward to getting home at the end of the day, or waking up in the morning. If we did scripture study, of course, it was going to be scripture study with commentary from none other than Steve Hood. And yet he was very serious about his mission and had his intentions were as pure as they could be, at least as far as I knew. But a few quick Steve Hood stories. One, I remember him walking out into the common area, the so-called living room, one morning, one very hot morning. And he was only in his garments and his torchia, as many of us walked around on such hot mornings. And somebody had opened the sliding glass door onto the small patio there already to let the air flow. And Steve hadn't quite realized that before he came around the corner. And bleary-eyed, he'd just awakened, and bleary-eyed staggered into the living room there, where the rest of us, I think, were maybe seated and waiting for scripture study. When he looks up, sees that the sliding glass door is open, maybe 6 feet away from him, granting a full view out from the balcony across the street to whomever might be over there. We all realize as Steve just looks up and waves across the street and says, "Wang Tai Tai, ni hao." And that was the end of scripture study for that day. We were all giggling hopelessly for the rest of the day, guffawing. I think we all stood up and probably tried to see if there was a Wang Tai Tai. If there was, we waved to her. And it kind of brought home the complexities of being a missionary in the summer in Taiwan. So Steve Hood, Wang Tai Tai, ni hao. And I also remember he was a good cook, or he was very conscientious about cooking. We all tried to be, or at least throughout my mission, we needed to feed each other well. And if it was your responsibility to cook, you didn't want to slack on that because you didn't want the other companionship slacking on you. So Steve was a good cook. I remember us seated around the table one evening, the 4 of us, and he's serving things up. And he handed some to me, or put some on my plate. And I said, "What's this?" And I think his companion said, "Oh, picky, aren't we? Aren't we, Elder Meacham?" And Lurch started to laugh on the other side of the table, on the other corner of the table. And Steve just leaned over to him, to Elder Whittier, and piled a bunch of food on his plate and said, "Here, Lurch, you'd eat pavement if I put it in front of you, wouldn't you?" And Lurch nodded yes, as he sucked up the very good food, very good food. I was in the wrong here, but Steve was fully prepared to turn that into a scripted, clever moment, not only at my expense, but kind of at Elder Whittier's expense, except that he was already playing along, and this was life with Steve Hood. Too bad that he came home, couldn't find a job, no schools would take him. Tragically, he ended up, I think they called him a teacher, but it was in some obscure subject that nobody really cares about anyway. Too bad for Steve Hood. And Steve Hood doesn't go away. He resurfaces. How could he not? How could Steve Hood not resurface? But finally, this in Shirlene, or finally today, only today, in Shirlene, it was time to put together the Christmas program for that year. So I'm trying to think back on all this. I was on island. I'd been through Hump Day, which meant June, July, August, September in Songshan. September, right. And then September, October, November in Shirley. That makes perfect sense because for some reason, probably because Elder Crook recognized that Elder Meacham needed a theatrical outlet of some kind, or he was going to lose it for some reason. And I think I was district leader at this time. Pretty sure. For some reason, Elder Meacham was put in charge of building the manger scene to be placed on the roof of the chapel at the jail for the Christmas program. You heard all of that correctly. If you were not on island for said Christmas program, that's a tragedy, because your holidays will never be as vivid and fulfilled as they will be for those of us who experienced, that's right, the creche, the manger scene. Life-sized. Did I mention life-sized manger scene? Life-sized Christ child. More to come on that, including photos, I'm afraid. And some of the... Oh, yes. This, in fact, is where we segue into Sister Susan Lindsay. Why? Because there was an apartment of sisters in Shirlene. I was district leader, 4 elders, 4 sisters, 2 sisters, 4 sisters, I think. One of them was Susan Lindsay, and we all know what that leads to. Yes, we most certainly do, and we're going to go into it in detail, with names, in the next episode or 2 here. Because Sister Lindsay helped me. Frankly, she took over, which was a good thing, because this is going to be funny. She, not unlike Sister Peggy Plant, stepped in where the inept elders were diddling around, wasting time. She steps in with project management skills and turns what otherwise would have been a complete fiasco into something that was quite remarkable. But that doesn't mean she's off the hook. Absolutely not. Oh, no. No, Susan Lindsay, who once looked me on our missions in this very place as we worked on this very project. With the holidays coming, with Lurch at my side, Susan Lindsay, who looked me straight in the eye one day and said, "You know, Elder Meacham, people like you would rather be right than be pleasant." Okay. So, I'm guilty of that. And what's your point there, Susan Lindsay, who saved the nativity scene, the manger scene. Yes, 3 wise men, all 3 of them. Joseph, Mary, the baby Jesus, and a variety of animals all presented. Well, it's just more fun than I'm going to be able to fit in this podcast, that's for sure.
In the chilly hours and minutes of uncertainty, I want to be in the warm hold of your love and mine, to feel you all around me take your hand along the sand. But I may as well try and catch the wind. When sundown pales the sky, I want to hide a while behind your smile. And everywhere I'd look, your eyes would find. For me to love you now would be the sweetest thing. 'Twould make me sing. But I may as well try and catch the wind. When rain has hung the leaves with tears, I want you near to kill my fears, to help me to leave all my blues behind. For standing in your heart is where I want to be and long to be. But I may as well try and catch the wind. Try